this recording to review at the end. So today I just wanted to start by introducing myself. My name is Angelina Sanders. I go by Angie. I am the procurement specialist with the Office of Contracting Procurement, referred to as OCP. I'm working in collaboration with the Mayor's Office releasing the SNOFA. And this NOFA is 183247 for community violence intervention, known as CVI, to reduce the violent crime in Detroit. OCP and the mayor's office is very excited to introduce the CVI program. So first we'll start by introducing Michael Peterson of the mayor's office to give an overview of the CVI program. Michael.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So again, thank you, Miss Angie. I appreciate the introduction. What I'm going to do first here is I will go through, this gives you the agenda for this afternoon, for this evening. And then we will actually be introducing the deputy mayor up next to give you the program overview. As Miss Angie mentioned, we're very excited to have you all here, excited to share this program with you. The deputy mayor leads this. Deputy Mayor Todd Bedison. On our team also, we've got myself, Mike Peterson. I will be the program administrator for the Shotstopper program here, as well as on our team, we have Miss Pamela McLean and Miss Andy Taverna, all both working under the deputy mayor. So again, happy to be with you. As you see here on the agenda, we're going to go over an overview of the program itself. Next, we will go into the eligibility, what it takes to become a shot stopper within this program. We'll follow it by going over the base budget, the performance, grants, options, and what a CVI score is, which is how the awarded applicants will be graded and judged. We'll go over a timeline for the project and the program here. We'll also take some time to go over the NOFA application process itself. That way, applicants are aware of what it's going to take and what's needed to actually be able to submit your application for this NOFA. Of course, we will also wrap it up with going over the support that is available to you, navigating the system that's needed, registering, and again, being able to apply for this program. And at the very end, we will go over questions. I just want to make sure that we let everyone know, please try your best so we can stick with the time and the presentation here to keep all your questions until the end. So if you do not already, please grab a pen and paper or the notes section in your tablet or phone so you can jot down any questions that you may have, maybe what slide they were on. But we're going to do our best to try to get through the presentation and save all questions for the end. Obviously, if there's something that comes up, you feel like you cannot move forward until you ask this question. It's a burning question. Maybe you feel like multiple people need to know it at that time. Feel free to throw it into the chat. We do have our team here that's going to be monitoring the chat section. So if there's something that comes up and it must be addressed, we'll try to grab my attention and let me know. We'll try to answer it at that point in time. But again, let's please do our best to wait until we get through the presentation and we will answer all of the questions that may be there. Okay, so again, thank you for your time. Up next, I'm going to actually introduce to you Deputy Mayor Todd Bedison, excuse me. He's going to go over the program overview for you guys here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Michael. I think I got a little bit of feedback, but I just want to say that I am very, very excited about the CVI project. I was so excited. I want to just jump up and down. CVI is definitely very, very important. And just what ever since the mayor's state of the city, you know, more folks just in the regular community are starting to become aware of what the acronym means, community violence intervention.
It's the one that was in the flyer.
I would like somebody to please check and make sure that, you know, you mute yourselves real quick. Thank you so much. How did we get here? So I got a law enforcement background, 27 years in law enforcement. and have had an opportunity to know that we in DPD, the police departments and agencies across the country, whether it's ATF, FBI, CIA, whoever it is, cannot do it alone. And we definitely have to have community involvement. And in the city of Detroit, over my career, I have seen community members volunteer, step up. You do everything that you can to to protect our citizenry. And so with that, and then traveling the country and also having a chance to work with other people in the space, organizations, philanthropic organizations that believe in this type of work and fund it. What could we do in the city of Detroit? How can it be meaningful? And then where do you look to be able to sustain it? And so that's how we got to where we are. I know that you all have read the NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability, and have went through it. And today we'll answer those questions. But it's a few key things that just wanted to, touch on. With the level of gun violence in our city, partnering with you all, the community groups, with your various strategies and tactics and working in the space and as community violence interrupters, what can you do if you were funded to expand your programs to get the type of results? And so that's what this is all about, being able to invest in groups that are already out there doing the work. And we've heard from many groups and, just over the years. Then whatever you do or whatever thing it is, you have to be able to measure it, because at the end, with this being federal dollars, individuals and folks will say, well, did you do what you say you were going to do? Does it work? If something doesn't work, it doesn't typically last. And so we definitely want to have the metrics in place to be able to show, what is working and to be able to measure that. And so that's where we wanted to ensure that we have a program where we can measure it and attribute the metrics, either the reduction of gun violence, homicides, directly to the group. And then for those that are successful, expand the investment and give the individuals that have proven success more. And then we could look at, scaling it up and understanding that the whole country is really looking at what we're doing in the city of Detroit. We've already received national attention for this program, and folks will be tracking it closely. So if we're successful, which I know we will be, then the successful organizations, you'll probably get requests from other cities, other communities, like, please come help us as well. And so what are we solving for? To bring down the level of violence, particularly gun violence. And when I say violence, we want it to be real clear as to what that is. So we're only measuring homicides and non-fatal shootings, meaning a person got shot and they didn't die. So it's not shots fired, but non-fatal shootings. Being able to measure results, improve it, proving what works in the city, and of course, like I said, expanding investment. Next slide. So what role can a shot stopper play? And so many folks was like, why did you call the program Shotstoppers? Because by working with violence intervention folks, of course, the city of Detroit has invested in law enforcement. We invest in technology. We invest in the police department. We invest in a lot of things. But hearing from the community, you said, hey, we out here, invest in us, invest in the people, invest in folks that's in the prevention. We're shot stoppers, invest in us, shot stoppers. And so that's where the name of the program came from. And so this is an opportunity to invest in that. And so whatever you do, and you look at the city of Detroit, which is 143 square miles, looking at the geographic area, we did a pullback of the map that you all have seen. That's a 5-year look back. And you can see that in certain neighborhoods that experience far more gun violence, gun trauma than any other neighborhood. So we would really suggest that you focus on those areas. and with your specific tactics to reduce the gun violence in what we call a CVI zone. So your tactics. One of the things the mayor was really clear about is that, hey, Bettison, deputy mayor, even though you got a law enforcement background, you know, let the community groups from a community lens. Don't over insert yourself. We don't want to turn it into a police exercise. So every time I got too policey, they made sure that they pull me out of it. And so this is something for you all to be able to propose. We're not telling you how to do it, but there are some, some best practices and research nationally of what they're doing in other places. But I can tell you that, of course, the city of Detroit is unique, which you already know. So we will provide research links and stuff like that. But the folks who are closest to the work and who have been doing it, you know your communities best. So that way you also get to pick your own CVI zone. Even though you have a map, we showed you where the violence is really concentrated. And so you propose your own CVI zone as well. You see Belle Isle. I didn't see any homicides or non-fatal shootings on Belle Isle within the past 5 years. So I wouldn't expect anybody to say, I'm about to take on Belle Isle. I don't think that would be a feasible plan to reduce gun violence. And I also didn't include downtown in the map as well, because that's not a neighborhood per se. And so if you notice that spot was blanked out, that's because we don't expect groups to say, I want to take on downtown. Next slide. So this is the map. And so, like I said, with me not being with the department, having Chief White pull back just homicides and non-fatal shootings for the past 5 years, I was just surprised just to see those hot spots. And so we were able to establish a baseline of what the violence is in those neighborhoods, and really being thoughtful, setting you all up for success, trying to figure out the right size for a CVI zone. And so 3 to 5 square miles, that's a lot of area. We had thought about maybe 10 square miles, but that's just too much. We want to definitely set you all up for the ones that are successful at getting the bids for success. And so hypothetically, we just carved out some areas. And this is just for a hypothetical example, nothing more. Just to demonstrate about, how square mileage in neighborhoods look. Next slide. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael, and he'll continue on with the eligibility component of it. But I wish you all on the call good luck. I am so pleased to see so many individuals on this call, and just with the overall interest. So I thank you all in advance. Thank you. Michael?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And just really quickly, one more time while we're going through this, for anyone else that may have just joined the call, please take a second to just check your team's meeting and make sure that you are on mute, please. That way there's limited background noise and everyone else that is on can focus on what's being shared. So as you mentioned, right now, we're going to go over the eligibility, what it takes, right? Requirements to become a shot stopper within this program. One of the unique benefits of this is that there are more than one way to meet your requirements. You'll see here the 3 main things that we're looking for, right? You must be a nonprofit or community-based organization within the city of Detroit, right, with a certificate of incorporation. You must have a minimum 2 years experience with this type of work, with specific violence prevention work within the city. And you must have a minimum of 5 years experience managing federal funds. It's going to be important to note that this grant that's being made available to us is through ARPA, right, is the American Rescue Act plan. And so it's really important that we are managing these funds properly and being accounted for, right? So as you see here, there's 3 different ways that we have shown just as examples for any applicants, potential applicants. You yourself can just be the nonprofit organization, right? Maybe you meet all 3 of these. You've got the history managing funds, you've got the history with the violence prevention. Fantastic. You're more than welcome to apply as an organization, a standalone organization. Second option here would be, hey, I've got the experience in the community. I've got my certificate of incorporation, but maybe I don't have 5 years experience in with managing federal funds. In that case, you may want to partner with a fiduciary, an entity that can be a pass-through entity to help you manage the funds, make sure that you're meeting all your compliance pieces that are necessary when receiving federal grant dollars. The third option here is it can be more than one community-based organization partnering, working together, and possibly with a fiduciary as well with you. Again, making sure that you're able to hit these three requirements that are necessary. As you see here, again, this CVI program, this Shotstopper program that we've got, these funds are coming directly from the federal government, right? So again, it's very important to make sure that either you yourself already have your back office in line in order to meet the compliance needs needed for utilizing ARPA dollars, or again, as you see at the very bottom of this slide here, we are encouraging that if you do not, that you please partner with a fiduciary in order to meet the compliance piece here. Again, meeting high standards. So things that you want to keep in mind, of course, you need to have your finance and accounting in order. Applicants are going to be required to document every single expenditure and expense. And there's what's called a uniform guidance when anytime you're spending $700,000 or more within a calendar year, the federal government will do an audit, right? So you want to make sure you have all your pieces to the puzzle when it comes to getting the funds for this program. Okay, next slide. Next, we're going to go over the actual budget, right? So you have your base budget. We're going to go over the performance grant piece, which is very unique, very exciting part of this program, and what it is to have a CVI score, which is how you'll be graded. So as you see here, we have your base budget and your performance grants. Okay? Each group that is awarded after applying will receive a base budget, right? Guaranteed funding to operate your program. This is for you to hire staff, obtain facilities, supplies, etc., things like that. That is a guaranteed base budget of $700,000 for each year. This is a 2-year program currently. Okay? When it comes to the additional performance grants, you're able to receive performance grants per quarter. So we'll be looking at this on a quarterly basis. At a max level, your performance grants can double your base budget. Okay, we're going to go over the exact dollar amounts for those here quickly, but I just want to make sure I point out there's two budgets to be aware of. You have your base budget that will be regardless, first year and second year. Then you also have the option to receive performance grants based on the work you're doing and the success that we're seeing. As you see here, your performance is going to be measured on your CVI score. Okay, your CVI score is actually very simple. We're looking at, as Deputy Mayor pointed out earlier, we're looking at all homicides and all non-fatal shootings. As you see here in the formula, homicides are weighted double, right? So we're going to look at the homicides, multiply it by 2, look at all non-fatal shootings, add those together. That will be your CVI score for that quarter. As far as the performance grant criteria, as I mentioned, your performance is going to be measured quarterly, right? We're going to take a 3-month period from when this starts, and we're going to look at the exact same time frame from the prior year. We're going to match up. We're going to look at the CVI score from this year, from that quarter, for the ones that are awarded this grant, compared to the previous year. In order to earn a performance grant, you must do 2 things. Okay? One, very simple. You must be able to lower the homicides and non-fatal shootings, right? Your CVI score must be lower than it was the previous year, right? So if we're looking at the 3rd quarter of this year, must be lower than the 3rd quarter of last year. Really simple part. The second piece of this, the reduction must be a greater percentage than the citywide trend, okay? So if the city's trending in X direction, what we're seeing in your CVI zone must beat it, right? And as you see below here, there are two levels to the performance grants that you could be awarded, right? Meaning the level one bonus, performance grant, if you're able to beat the citywide trend by 10 percentage points, you would receive your level one bonus. And again, we're going to go into these numbers here in the next slide. If you're able to beat the citywide trend by 20 percentage points, that's going to take you to the max, which is your level two performance grant. So this gives you a good summary of the budget. Okay, if you look at it, a couple of things that I'm going to point out to the right really quickly. It's really important to point out. Each group, each CVI group that is awarded is going to propose how they plan to use the budget. As the deputy mayor said, we understand that these groups, your applicants, are the ones that are actually in the communities doing the work. You have ideas of what's necessary. That's fantastic. We want you to be able to use your knowledge and expertise to build out your own budget. What do you need? Okay. So if you look at your base budget, it's an annual, as I mentioned earlier, of $700,000, which will be paid quarterly. $700,000, you break that into 4, you get 175. Okay. So that's how you're getting this 175 per quarter as a part of your base budget. Again, the base budget is for your staffing, your facilities, insurance, things like that, that you know you're going to need just to sustain your program. Below that, you get into the performance grants. Okay, and as I mentioned on the previous slide, there are two levels to the performance grants. You've got level one, which means that you were able to successfully not only reduce your CVI score and the number of shootings in your area, but beat the citywide trend by at least 10 percentage points. If you're able to do that for that quarter, you would receive a quarterly performance grant of $87,500, again, in addition to your base budget, which is phenomenal. If you're seeing a high level of success for that quarter and you are able to beat the city trend by 20 percentage points, then you would be awarded the level two performance grant of $175,000 for that quarter. Okay. Again, if you look to the right of that, annually just shows you what you could potentially make or what the awarded applicants could potentially make per year, seeing the successful reduction in violence in their CVI zones. Okay. And one thing that I'll point out that I didn't on the last slide, forgive me, is those performance grants must be used to sustain or expand what you are doing, right? This is not to go on vacation. This is to make sure that you are able to sustain the work that you're doing, expand it, and continue. It must be invested or reinvested back into community violence intervention and interruption. All right. This slide here gives you a hypothetical performance example. And I'm going to kind of take my time and go through it so that way you can actually see how it's broken down at the best of my ability here. Okay. So if you look at it, if you look at the top chart here, it's really important. Again, this is hypothetical crime data, but we have been scouring over numbers leading up to this. So it's pretty close to what you should see, what you may see, or what the awarded applicants would see for your CVI zone. Okay. So if you see on the top one here, we've got your CVI zone on the left side here, and you got the citywide numbers on the right side. Okay. If you look to the left, it's got your time period. Right now, for this hypothetical example, we're using Q3 of 2023, right? Because based on when this program would begin, that is the closest that you would see. And below that, you've got Q3 of 2022, which again, we're going to compare from the previous year of the exact same time frame. Okay. So if you were to look at this hypothetical crime data, right, and if you look at for 2022, for example, if you were to just go right across that line under your CVI zone, you see the first category here, we have homicides, right? So let's say there were, again, it gives you a hypothetical scenario of 5 that maybe you received this year, maybe there were 6 last year. Then you see how it's the homicides, as I mentioned, are weighted double. Okay. So again, simple math here just for the simplicity and to show you guys what the example would be. But again, homicides from 5 times 2 equals 10. 6 times 2 is 12. So that shows you that's the beginning of your CVI score. All right, we've got your homicides. Then we will just simply add your non-fatal shootings. And then you end up with your CVI score there. So in this hypothetical scenario, under the CVI zone, you see that in 2023, the CVI score was lower than it was in 2022, which is the first criteria in order for you to meet your performance grant. Okay. If you look to the right side of that same graph, you have the citywide. It's set up exactly the same way. It shows you the city homicides from this quarter versus last. Shows you what that weighting would be, multiplying times 2, adding your non-fatal shootings, and again, you get the city CVI score. Okay, so if you go to the second half of this slide, it gives you, again, you can see in the first section here, did we meet our number one thing? Yes, right? In 2023, in this scenario of quarter 3, the CVI score was 24, which was lower than what we saw the previous year of 28. Okay, so yes, we're good to go there. We meet that. The second piece, is the reduction greater than the citywide trend? Well, in this scenario, yes, we see that the CVI zone, the score fell by 14.3%, right? That's the 28 versus the 24. Okay. You see the citywide trend. Oh, thank you for going on mute. You see the citywide trend, the CVI score fell by 1.8%. So in this scenario, there's a difference of 12.5 percentage points, which means that this particular applicant, this Shotstopper group, would have been eligible to receive their level 1 grant for this quarter alone, which is $87,500. Okay. So again, this is just one hypothetical performance example to give you an idea of what's going behind how the CVI zone, how the CVI score is created and how it's used to measure how the groups are doing. Okay. Next, we'll go over the timeline briefly here. Again, if any of you have already reviewed this information online, you'll see some of this is there. But again, this NOFA is out and open. All applications are due by April 10th at 4 p.m. Okay. Once all the applications are in, the review team will then take it. They will review all the applications that were submitted. Right? There's no exact date, but by the end of April, grantees will have been selected. As you see, by June, awards will be made and City Council will then vote to approve. Right? Starting July 1 is when the grant term begins. July 1 of this year is when the grant terms begin. Now, the first measurement does not begin until August 1st.
He just gave me that number.
Okay. Again, please remember
And I
to
called him
make
back,
sure
and
you're
he
on mute.
giggled. The lady answered the phone.
All right.
She transferred me to senior.
Thank you very much. All right. So again, excuse me for that. August 1 is when the performance measurement begins. So what that means essentially from July 1 to August 1 is when you have time to start, or awarded applicants have time to start building their staff, locating their facilities, getting everything in place that they said they would be able to do to start this program. And then we will not start measuring the performance within that CVI zone until it begins August 1 of this year. July 1 of the following year, of next year, this is when our initial review period will begin. Okay. What this means is that at this point in time, it's been 1 year since the program has started. The city holds the right to then take a look and see how each awardee is doing, right? So we can potentially at that point continue to the second year, right? As we have planning to do for everyone that is awarded. At that point in time, we can take a look. The city holds the right to terminate, right? If things are not moving in the right direction. Right. And at the same time, the city holds the right to have the conversation with groups that are seeing a lot of success to say, hey, how do we expand this if they're open to expanding? How do we cover more ground? How do we increase what they're getting as far as resources and capacity? Right. And then, of course, July 31 of 2025 is when this program, the 2-year grant term, ends, right? Obviously, we are shooting for success from every single one that is awarded, and then we will continue from there as we see fit. But this is the current 2-year plan that we have right now for this program. So now we get into the fun stuff. This is the actual NOFA application process. I think some folks have been through this, may be familiar with it, but if not, this is how you're actually, if you are interested in this program, will be able to apply and submit. And this is what's going to be needed in order to supply for this program. And, so this is essentially what we're looking for when people are submitting their applications. It's 3 different things here. You see the rubric, if you will, the grading, the points. Number one thing that we're looking at here is your experience with similar services. Right? We want to make sure that we're going to look at and grade, or our review team will look at and grade the experience that you've got already working, again, for example, with at-risk individuals, your successful track record of reducing violence, your knowledge overall of the community members and the organizations that within that proposed CVI zone, right? So we're gonna look at your experience with CVI. We're also gonna look at your organizational capacity, meaning what staff do you already have in place, who do you plan to hire, their expertise, the systems and policies that you already have in place, right? For providing CVI services, as well as, again, between the organization, or if you're partnering with a fiduciary, the ability to manage federal funds. So that's a part of the second part. And the third part that we're looking at is the thoroughness of application. Meaning here, we want to make sure that the applicants that you're able to submit very thought out, realistic strategies of what you plan to do, how you plan to reduce violence in the area here, okay? As well as your thoughtfulness as far as analyzing data already within that area, and how specific and detailed your plan is, and how you plan to address what is going on and actually use these tactics for your CVI zone. First steps here for anyone that's interested, you are going to want to make sure you register for a unique identity, unique entity ID with sam.gov. The next piece is also register as a city supplier, right? So you must be registered both federally and with the city as a supplier. We've got the link here. For anyone that joined late, just a heads up, this is recorded. This will be provided later, and we will also provide these links. So I know some folks may be mobile right now, may not have access to these links directly or the ability to jot them down. No problem, you will have access. But the next thing, as I mentioned, is making sure you're registered with the city. And then that is also where you will be able to submit your application through the city system Oracle. You will be able to go through and submit it. This is how you actually submit your application to this NOFA. Okay. All right. After you register as a city supplier, right, your organization can then view the negotiation. Again, you can go in, it's called Oracle. You'll be able to view the current bid opportunities. Please make sure you're on mute. Thank you. Again, you can jot down, this is a NOFA, a Notice of Funding Availability. Again, 183274. You can look it up directly that way. There's a number of different ways to find it, but that would be the best. Again, ARPA Community Violence Intervention. This Notice of Funding Availability provides all the details to this Shotstopper program, right? It's going to go over the minimum qualifications in order to bid and other contracting terms and conditions. And there are several attachments. So this is what you'll want to be aware of, which we will go through these here next. There are several attachments with this NOFA, right? As you see here, attachments A, B, C, and D must be completed by any applicant in order to apply. And we'll go through each of those here shortly. E and F are purely informational. It's data for applicants to be able to help inform your proposals. because again, a big part of the grading is how thorough is your proposal and what you're presenting to the city. So I'm going to go over attachment A here, which is the first attachment that you will find after the actual NOFA, broken down into two parts. You've got your experience, as we mentioned when we were going over the grading. You've also got your capacity. Okay, experience, as you see here, we're just going to want you to list, hey, what's your background, right, of you, your organization, your qualifications for community violence intervention, previous experiences with grants management, and any references for any prior relevant experiences that you have that make you feel like you're the right candidate to receive the grant. For the capacity piece, again, this is where you'll be able to submit any documentation demonstrating, your ability to provide these services, right? Your organizational chart, key personnel that you have, again, showing your ability to actually take on and complete what you're planning to do. Attachment B here, you'll see this is your introduction and solution to the approach. Okay, your proposal for CVI services. Again, this is where you're actually going to lay out and let the city know what is your proposed CVI zone, right? So the actual location, boundaries, and why you're selecting this zone, right? Why your organization is best fit to serve this zone. Again, you'll see later here, attachments E and F are purely informational, so they will potentially help any applicants decide what area they want and the exact boundaries of their CVI zone. This part B also factors to drive out violence. This is where you'll actually provide your analysis of what's going on in this area as far as your experience and your research of the area. You'll be able to propose your CVI tactics, what your program is planning to do, and then also your rationale for effectiveness, as you see here, which is essentially why you believe these tactics are actually going to reduce violence within your CVI zone. Okay. And lastly, budget, staffing, your staffing plan, and your timeline. This is where you're going to provide that information. The next attachment you're going to have is attachment C, which is your pricing proposal. Okay. Again, this is basically an itemized budget showing how your organization would use these funds. Again, the awarded applicants will receive a $700,000 base budget for each of the 2 years. How do you anticipate spending that? So salaries, maybe you're going to give benefits for the employees you're hiring. This is where you'll put in what your anticipated cost for a building would be if that's a need, your insurance, things like that. And again, this is not a complete list. These are examples of what you would be adding in your pricing proposal, again, outlining your budget. And as I mentioned, attachments E and F are purely informational for any applicants that are interested in applying here. Attachment E is the citywide map of the homicides, which you've seen in the previous slide. It gives you a breakdown of the hot spots, the non-fatal shootings and homicides. And this map is showing data, again, over the last 5 years. So it's pretty consistent in certain areas, right? So the citywide map shows you the hot spots. You will be able to, after the citywide, we also have it broken down by precinct, which I'll go over in a little bit. And then also has all the data. There is an Excel sheet that gives you, for the last 3 years, each neighborhood, right? So when you're figuring out your area, you might say, hey, I want such and such this area that encompasses, let's say, 4 neighborhoods. This is where you can see the actual data from DPD of the shootings, non-fatal shootings and homicides in those areas. So as you see here, this is a hypothetical example of how you can use those maps and the data to develop your CVI zone. Right? As I mentioned, the attachment E shows a citywide map of the all homicides and non-fatal shootings. And in this particular example, let's say you're looking at the at Northwest Detroit, right? Looking at taking care of those hotspots. And what you would do after you get the citywide map within attachment E, you'll also have by precinct, right? By DPD precinct, a zoomed in version. So that way you can go and actually see what streets are encompassed or landmarks, right? So you'd be able to go in and see this. And you'll see in this particular scenario of what we were looking at, this hotspot is between 7 miles and 8 mile from about Greenfield Road to Evergreen Road. Again, you can use that map. Some of you, again, will already know the area, so you know what you're looking at. But if you need to, you can also, of course, go to Google Maps to help identify roads and landmarks. The City of Detroit website actually has a really great tool, an interactive map broken down by council district as well as neighborhood maps. That way you can figure out and set up your boundaries. And in this particular scenario, again, we'd be looking at the neighborhoods of Greenfield, College Park, O'Hare Park, Evergreen Outer Drive, Evergreen, Holcomb Community. And in attachment F, this is where you will actually find an Excel with the breakdown per neighborhood, right? And it's for the last 3 years. So again, this is just to help you or help the applicant make an informed decision of what their CVI zone should be. So if you look here, you can go to those exact same neighborhoods that we just outlined as our hypothetical example. You can see the square mileage of how big each of those neighborhoods is currently. And then you can also see the fatalities, homicide, other, right? So death, but not by gun. And then you also have non-fatal shootings. So you have fatal shootings, all homicide, other, and then non-fatal shootings. And there's also a CVI score here. So in this scenario that we're showing you, this is looking at Q3 and Q4. Within attachment F, you will have it for all 4 quarters for the 3 years. So again, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And this is to help, inform groups of how to set up their CVI zones. You can also go to Google. There's a couple different resources where you can draw out an area, and it'll tell you exactly how many square miles and get all that data put together. And at this point, I'm actually going to kick it back over to Miss Angie on our procurement team here. She will go over attachment D and the required forms as well.
Thank you, Michael. So a part of your application would be attachment D, and these are required forms to be submitted with your application. Within the NOFA in Oracle, these forms are listed, so you'll be able to have this exact checklist to reference when you're applying. So these forms and affidavits are, like I said, within the NOFA, and you'll be able to download them once you're in our Oracle system. And within these forms, you would just have to complete those forms and affidavits and submit them with your application. Also, we would like you to provide a sample employment application, and that is just a copy of your application for all employees that you have. And we would like you to include your city income tax and clearance. Also, the past 3 years of financial information for your organization. And also, you have to be registered with your SAMs for your organization to receive federal funds. And so you can apply at sams.gov. We do realize that SAMS is a little backed up, but once you, but we need you to please at least apply for your entity number with this of awards management with the government. And you can, if you haven't applied before and you don't have that entity number with your when you submit your application, you can just submit your application that you submitted, and we will follow up with SAMS to make sure that that is going through. We can go to the next slide, Michael. And so we'll be going over the support that we have here through OCP to help you navigate the application process. So we do have supplier support information. If you have not registered with the city of Detroit, we ask that you do so. You have to apply as a supplier with the city of Detroit at thecityofdetroit.gov. The registration is very easy, but if you have some concerns, you can always reach our supplier portal hotline. We have a
Oops. I think Miss Angie may have been frozen there for a second, but as she was going over, and if she hops back on, I'll let her take over. But you are able to. Oh, Miss Angie, are you back? Okay, she's still cutting in and out. But essentially here is where you would actually be able to get additional support. So again, if this is your first time going through this or getting set up in Oracle or in the city supplier site, you are not alone. There are a team of folks here, as you see throughout the week, that will help you to get set up. And you actually, these are not pre-recorded trainings. These are actual individuals from the OCP procurement team that will be able to help assist you with any of your needs when it comes to submitting your application, whether it's just registering, whether it's uploading, attaching, navigating the system as a whole. So again, this will all be provided after the meeting as well. But if you do have your smartphone or something nearby and you'll be submitting a bid, feel free to pull out your camera, get the QR code, and you'll get a direct link to the website. But on the city site, we also have it there for you to be able to click on and access as well. Looks like we got you back here, Miss Angie. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, I appreciate you taking over. My computer decided to shut down for whatever reason. And I do apologize for that. Again, to reiterate what Michael was, I'm sorry, am I echoing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there may be two microphones open, maybe your computer. And
Yes, you
phone.
are.
Hello.
I can't hear anything.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
I'm sorry, for whatever reason, my computer is trying to do an update and it keeps trying to shut me down. So I will go really fast. Of course, it would do it while I'm on a meeting. Again, so as Michael was saying, that we do have a list, here is listed the meetings for supplier registration, helps also to help you with your profile updates, responding to the applications, the invoicing, anything that you need help with. Please feel free to reach out to our supplier portal help team. There's my contact information, and of course, I am the supplier, the procurement specialist working on the ARPA team with the mayor's office to bring this NOFA. So any questions that you have, you can submit to me through the Oracle system, and I will have those immediately answered for you. Again, you have to have your questions after today submitted by March 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's another thing that I wanted to reiterate too. Within your Oracle system, well, you need to check to make sure that your Oracle is set to Eastern Standard Time, because at 4 o'clock p.m., when you're trying to submit your application, if it's or set on at any other time other than Eastern Standard Time, it will shut you out. And I don't want anyone to not be able to submit their application due to the time zone being mixed up, and it was shut off at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you thought it was a different time because you're in a different time zone set up in Oracle. So I just will reiterate that you check that, check and make sure that your Oracle system is set to Eastern Standard Time. And as Michael mentioned before, the applications are due April 10th at 4 p.m. again at Eastern Standard Time. Please make sure that you don't wait until the last at the third last hour, 3 o'clock, to submit your application documents, because for sure there will be some type of concern where you're not able to upload all of your documents. And we want you to allow yourself that time just in case there's some type of hiccup. As you can see, my computer just shut down in the middle of the meeting. So it's always something that's happening within the systems, computers and glitches and different things like that. So please don't wait until the last moment to do so. Like I said, to submit your application. We look forward to having everyone participate. This is a really big initiative with our mayor. And so we're very excited about this program, and we want everyone to have an opportunity to submit an application for this CDI program to reduce violence in the city of Detroit. Right now, we are going to that's all the information that I have. Again, thank you. But if you have any questions that you want to have answered at this time, we do have, for anyone that wants to stay on and ask questions, we will be here for you right now. And again, if you have any questions in the future, that you can submit them by March 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Oracle. But if you have questions now, we have the mayor's team monitoring the chat, and you can just raise your hand and they'll call your name, and you can unmute yourself and then ask the question, and we'll try to answer it as best as possible.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Angie. And really quick, I know my team brought it to my attention in the chat. There was a couple of things to point out. So one, as far as partnering goes, again, we do have a list of possible fiduciaries, or if you're an additional fiduciary interested in partnering with the organizations, of course, you can go online and we will provide that list. It is already provided on the city website as well, but we will provide it after this as well. And I know there were a couple comments, I believe, in regards to the requirements, right? So again, very, very specific when it comes to, being a recognized entity, having the 2 years experience, let's say in the field, if you will, as well as the 5-year experience with federal funds. Again, I think it's understood that not every group, especially a lot of groups, potential applicants being grassroots, may not have that length of time managing federal funds. But again, this is a federal program with a significant amount of being given out as a grantee. So that is why we strongly encourage the organizations to partner with a fiduciary. Right, partnering with the fiduciary, of course, they'll have their piece that they would have. Again, that's for you to work out with the fiduciary when it comes to their percentage. But again, that allows you to meet that criteria. So if you've got X amount of years working again in the communities of doing it, but don't have the experience managing federal grants, that's where you would want to work with a fiduciary that does, right? And that's going to help make sure that you're in line. So when your organization is audited, you're not coming scrambling at the last minute trying to figure out, oh, I didn't know I needed this, or we didn't know we needed that. Again, it is strongly encouraged that if you do not have that you're working with a fiduciary. And I think there was a question about a organization, or excuse me, a fiduciary being able to give out the grants as a, excuse me, being able to, I'm looking for the exact one that was here, excuse me. can send a subrecipient re-grant the funds. So if you are a fiduciary and you're applying to get the funds, that also means that you must have the 2-year experience of the CVI work as well, right? So there shouldn't be any fiduciary alone that would be able to apply and be awarded these grants to then be able to give the grants out from there. Again, because the criteria is to have the history doing the work as well as the history managing federal funds. Right. Let me see. I know there's a couple of hands up. I think we've got 4 folks here. Bear with me if I can take a look. Perfect. We'll go with Ray Smith. Please, if you don't mind taking yourself off mute.
Yes, hi, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
In particular, when we talk about the fiduciaries, matter of fact, I got one question for Angie. Angie, are you over all the ARPA funding for the city, the entire allotment?
No, I work with a team and I do NOFAs. So, but ARPA is a huge undertaking. So I do have a whole department, and it's quite a few of us that work within the ARPA program. So
Okay.
this is one that I'm facilitating with the mayor's office.
Okay. To get to my question here, in
Mhm.
terms of, is this for Detroit nonprofits, or this open to anyone in the country? Also, can you partner with someone outside of the city of Detroit? And also the fiduciary, who is the grant, who will be the grant recipient if you're working with fiduciary? The fiduciary or the applicant as far as the Detroit community-based organization?
Sure. That's great questions. Thank you. So we'll answer your last question there first. It will be the organization, but you would be submitting your application as a partnership, right? The fiduciary, typically in previous experiences, they're not the ones providing the actual community violence intervention, right? Your organization or the applicant's organization is the one doing that. They're just partnering with the fiduciary to help on the, again, accounting side, compliance side of things. Right, so you would be doing it, but labeling that fiduciary that you're partnering with in your application is extremely important to show that, hey, I am partnering with XYZ fiduciary. They have the experience managing federal funds. Here's their experience managing federal funds, et cetera. To your initial question, this is not strictly to the city of Detroit. It is open. It is open to anyone across the country to be able to apply. Obviously, as we mentioned, one of the key parts is a thorough and understanding of the area you're working. Right. So, someone wouldn't be able to just come in from Arizona and say, hey, we've done this here. Here's what we're going to do there. Unfortunately, it just would not meet that criteria.
But can you partner with someone from Arizona?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Good
No problem. Thank you. Let's see. So, Ray, thank you for, looks like for your question, Ray. I appreciate it. I know your hand's still up, but that was from the previous one. Next thing I see here, we have got, let me see, TMI Detroit.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Well, good evening. I think you answered the question just now, because I was only going to ask, is there going to be an administrator? Because normally sometimes a lot of city governments pass their contracts on to an administrator, and then that whole $700,000 that you're talking about we're going to operate with becomes their operation costs and not ours. So we just want to make sure that doesn't happen. Is that type of thing?
Right. Nope. That's why we're, again, encouraging that, any of the groups are working and partnering and finding their own fiduciary that they're, planning to work with to help them manage those funds and their documents. Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
I think
Thank
you said
you.
it was answered. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. And then next on my screen, I've got Negus Vu.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
I have, good. The question I have is regarding the size. When you say 3 square miles, would one neighborhood constitute as the 3 square miles? I was a little confused about that in terms of
Sure.
the size. For instance, let's say Greenfield, for instance, when it starts from Greenfield, let's say it stretches to Southfield from 8 mile to 7 mile. That constitute as a 3 square radius.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great question. And so I want to be clear about it. What we're looking at is anywhere from 3 to 5 square miles. Each neighborhood, and that's one of the things that's so unique about Detroit. Each neighborhood varies in size. We've got some that are, a quarter of a square mile constitute a neighborhood. You have some that are over 1 whole square mile, a mile, 1.5 square miles. So each one is going to be completely different. I couldn't tell you that it's, approximately 3 or 4 because trust me, I've been running through several scenarios and numbers here. And in some scenarios, there's about 4 that would make up, let's say 4 square miles. And in others I had, it was about 9 total neighborhoods that made it up. So that's why we provided the precinct as well as the neighborhood data. That way you were able to go on to, again, like a Google, you can kind of draw it out and it'll tell you, hey, what you've drawn out is 4.3 square miles or whatever it is. So it's not specific to the neighborhood, which unfortunately it's, I'm sorry.
So I've seen the mileage on there. I thought it was longer. So those numbers on there, that's the actual total square mileage for each neighborhood. Because I've seen Greenfield, it said like 0.9. So is that
right?
Saying
Exactly.
The whole neighborhood 9 square miles?
You got it. 0.9 square miles.
Okay.
So that one was almost 1 whole square mile.
If I can just give him a little example, like if you're standing at Greenfield, you're gonna walk all the way to Lasher, and that's gonna be 3 miles. And then you're gonna walk all the way up to 6 mile or Plymouth or whatever, Grand River, 3 miles, and then back down to Greenfield, and then back up to 8 miles. So that's square miles right there. They're all the same. They're all the same mileage each way. The northbound, the southbound, eastbound, and the westbound are all the same footage.
Thank you. But does that answer your question, Negasfu?
Yep.
Okay, great. And if you guys wouldn't mind lowering your hands, just so I can keep up with who still has questions. I know TMI Detroit and Negasfu, you guys still have yours. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Let's see here. Next, I have that's what's showing up on my list. So forgive me if you had your hand up first. I'm just going straight down what I have here. Miss Patty.
Hello, thank you so much. It's a very good presentation. I assume because of the registration that was needed in SAM and all, and the federal requirements, that you're going to follow pretty much the DOJ grants management fiscal reporting. I assume that. Is that correct, or is it less stringent?
No, so we are not. Give me one sec. You want to ask one? Yeah. Sure. I'm going to actually have Miss Annie Tavern on her team here answer that question for you, because I know she's much more equipped to.
Absolutely. So the requirements on ARPA funding are not necessarily the same as all other federal funds. There's a lot of overlap there, but it's not necessarily one for one. The notice of funding availability does not include the specific reporting requirements, and those are requirements that we expect to share with applicants after they have been selected, and we can kind of partner to develop those.
I see. In the chat, just FYI, I had put in what the DOJ grants financial management is, which is a good training for anybody at all. I'm not sure how much in depth it is. I mean, if somebody looks at it, there's 54 modules, I think, and it's quite extensive. So it might be a little shocking for people, but it's actually kind of a good thing to at least flip through for different areas, because I would think that some of that's going to be incorporated. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Some components of the federal financial management requirements will be applicable here for sure.
But people won't know unless you're selected. Is that what I heard you say? Or are you going to make that available ahead of time so that it'd be important for fiduciaries and such to know?
Absolutely. There's information in the notice of funding availability about the components of the federal uniform guidance. So the requirements on how you manage financially the funds. Those are included in the notice of funding availability, which of those requirements are applicable. The reporting requirements of what information you will be required to report to the city if you are awarded a grant are not specified in the NOFA. So two separate components there.
Oh, I see. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Patty. Ms. Patty, I appreciate the question. And the next that I have showing up here, and I apologize ahead of time if I butcher anyone's name, but I'm going to give it a shot either way. Is it Asia? Am I remotely close? Nico.
Oh my gosh, like so close. Right
I'll
on.
take it.
I'm actually surprised. Yes, thank you. So I originally asked this question, but I think our organization just would like some clarification. So we are fairly large and we do support a lot of grassroots organizations. And so in, thinking of becoming a fiduciary to some of them that qualify, do we ourselves have to have the 2 years of crime prevention, violence prevention to become their fiduciary?
In that circumstance, that sounds like exactly the circumstance we were thinking of for a partnership application. So what you would do in that case is find several community-based organizations that you either are already working with or that you would like to work with in this program, come together as a partnership, and then submit that application together to the city. Some component of your partnership does need to have 2 years of experience providing CVI services and 5 years of experience managing federal funds. Does that answer the question a little better?
That does answer the question. So it could be, for example, and I just want to make sure. So let's say we are the ones who have the 5 years of federal experience, and they're the ones who have 2+ years of crime prevention, and we partner together to apply for this funding. That would be acceptable.
Absolutely. And to put in one last plug, there are a handful of groups in the chat who are looking for fiduciary partners. So we may be making some good connections on this call.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And I'm Asia from Wayne Metro.
Great. Thank you, Asia. Yeah. And just to reiterate, yeah, it's definitely, it's not an either or when it comes to the requirements. They all must be met. Okay. Next that I have showing here, I've got Gia M.
Yes, how you doing?
Doing
She's
well.
scared to talk. I'm gonna talk for her.
I'm scared.
Okay. It's the team.
I'm scared. No, why would
All
you
right, my
say
name
that?
is Mike. I've been in the city for a while, and I was just wondering, when I heard about the program on the TV program, and they said think outside the box. It's time to think outside the box on how you gonna get to these kids. It ain't about everybody talking about the funding. A lot of organizations been out here doing it a long time without funding, and then they might don't have the 5 years experience. They might don't have the 2 years criminal, but we had, all right, I've been here 60 years, 60+ years, and it only been going down. So the 5 years experience that you saying that they should have, they had it and it ain't did no good. So it's time to think outside the box and give people with 0 years of experience with federal funding, because a lot of churches got 5 years of spending with federal funding. They get a whole bunch of money. And I ain't just saying churches. What you're saying is people with the 5 years federal funding experience, they already had 5 years and we still in the same situation. That's why you selling this program, because nothing haven't changed in the last 5 years. So, I mean, I ain't talking about nobody, and I hope y'all understand, but if you already done had 5 years experience dealing with federal funding for these kind of programs and you haven't made no change, I think you need to get off this and figure out something else. I mean,
Sure.
because we got to make a difference. These kids are not listening to people, churches. They ain't listening to pastors. They gonna listen to a pastor. Hey, y'all stop doing this. But they get into a Maybach, get into their helicopter, get into their private jet, and then these kids like, what we got? I'm
Sure.
saying, I mean, for real, these kids ain't in the churches. Matter of fact, they ain't even in our schools, but they in our neighborhoods.
Right. So no, you make a great point. Yeah, I understand that, Mike. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to just make sure I point out that, again, the 5-year experience managing federal funds, we're not saying that the community-based organization or the community violence group has 5 years experience managing federal funds. We understand that. That's why we're strongly encouraging that these groups do partner with, as you just mentioned, the last 2 groups speak. They are fiduciaries. They have that experience on the 5 years with managing federal funds, because there's a lot that comes with managing federal dollars, but they do not have the experience in the community. And we need to make sure with such a large program that they are working with groups that have the experience. Now, if you've got no years experience, that's fantastic. I'm glad you're doing the work. This just may not be the program for you. This isn't something where you've got no experience. That's like coming and trying to get a job with a resume saying, hey, I haven't worked before, but I need $300,000 a year. It's not going to work, right? So we're talking about $700,000 per year. Unfortunately, this sounds like a group that doesn't have any experience. This in particular isn't the program for them. Doesn't mean there won't be something else developed coming, right? We're at least trying to get it going, but based on the ARPA federal dollars that are available, this is what has been put together to be able to give to the groups that at least have 2 years doing the work in the neighborhood. Does that make sense?
Right.
30 years experience.
Okay. But valid points. And again, that's why we're trying to get unique, ideas from these groups that are doing the work, because we're not the ones thinking outside the box, outside of saying, hey, we understand we need to do more than just work with police, and right, that we need to make sure we do what we can. So this is something different that we're trying.
Because I was listening to the United States Attorney General, the Eastern District of Michigan, and she said it's time to really go outside the box and get this, crime under control, even if, that's what I'm saying. So
yeah, so that's why we're looking for the most
I mean,
creative, applications to be submitted and thorough and thought out, and those are going to be the ones that are awarded the grants.
All right. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you. Thank you for your question and your time. Next, I've got showing Malcolm Talley. Malcolm, if you're there.
Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. It's been very informative. I just would like to ask one question in regards to the CVI score and groups that are effective in lowering the crime rate in their respective areas. Would they be able to, if they are successful in lowering the crime rates in their particular areas, to expand that radius?
Great question. So I want to make sure I understood you, because it was, I don't know if it was my service or not, but it was kind of cutting in and out a little bit. So I do want to make sure I understand. So are you saying that the groups that are successful, will they be able to extend out and cover a larger area?
Yes, sir. So if they were, if they had a 3 to 5 mile radius or a 5 to 8 mile radius, would they be able to extend that to a 10 mile radius if they are successful and have a low CVI score?
Yes, thank you for the question. That's a great question. So yes, they will be able to. That will be at the 1 year review that we have. So after the first year, so meaning 4 quarters of actually taking a look at the scores, we'll be able to take a look and see, hey, what is your CVI score? What has your zone been doing? And absolutely, at that point in time, that's where the city has the right to come and say, hey, and again, if the group wants to do it as well, to say, hey, let's look at expanding the area and taking your tactics and employing them in a larger area.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're encouraging to start with the 3 to 5, but absolutely, after the first year, that is the goal. We're hoping that we do see a lot of success here, and that we are able to then go, and the ones that are doing well and showing the reduction and everything moving in the right direction. Excuse me. Looking to expand it. Yeah, thank you, Malcolm.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Again, I'm going to give it a shot here. The next that I have showing up is Ashiki.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Good job.
All right.
My name is Ashiki Ajamu with Pop Solutions. We are, as well as a fiduciary out here in the community. And we would like to work together with individuals that would like to join us. Now, our question is, when it comes down to the actual financing side, we understand the structure. What we're actually looking at is the actual payout. Would it be a net 30, net 60? Because that's really going to determine pretty much the community, because we have to pay people pretty much to get things going. So that's really my question. In the time frame, will we be able to start paying people from the actual grant?
So at this point in time, we haven't specified the payment terms. That will be after after the groups are selected. I know it won't be just like a $700,000 check. I can tell you that. But we also understand, in order for any of these groups to be successful, they need some funds up front to be able to go out, start hiring, start getting their facilities. So the exact, whether it's 30, 60, a quarter, that part we haven't finalized to be able to give out to the public just yet. But again, we absolutely understand. We can't ask you to go out and save the world, just digging into your own pockets. So there will be some funds given out initially.
Right. And the reason why I said that is because we have to, all of us have to have these, the staged. We can't just go into it off our own, and then therefore, because it's a time frame. We are looking at the time frame to get these done. So we just need some answers. It doesn't have to be definite, but some answers in that, because once you start, or let's say if you're renting a location, they want to know some definites. So it's things that we have to have in place in order to make this happen properly. That's pretty much it.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And again, that's why once the groups are awarded, you'll know ahead of time, before, way before any funds are needed, before we start measuring anything, you will know. And then at that point in time, when you found out, you will also be given the information to know exactly, hey, this is how the payouts are going to be structured as well. So there will be ample time before any funds are given and before we actually start the measurement of the CVI scores.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Everybody have a blessed day. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You too. All right. The next that I have shown on my list here is Darla Brooks.
Yes, there I am. Yes,
There
thank
you are.
you. Yes, Darlo with Dable Incorporated. Just a quick question. I think you may have answered this already when you were answering Wayne Metro's question, not sure, but the fiduciary slash nonprofit situation as far as eligibility. If one doesn't have if the other one does, then that group is covered, correct?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. And let me just say that I think this is really, really great. I hope the other guy, Mike, that was talking. I mean, this is an amazing platform for people to connect. Hey, get together with somebody. We all need help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the question and making sure we had that clarified for everyone. And I appreciate your excitement. We're, of course, excited. And again, we're trying to do this in a way that is attainable, right? But we also understand there's a lot of strings, there's a lot of things attached when we're looking at spending these dollars, and it's going to be under a microscope. Excuse me. So again, we want to make sure we are setting folks up for success and encouraging the right habits. But I'm happy to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Ms. Darla, perfect. So the next that I have showing here, forgive me, I've just got, let's see, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but I just have WHOH Detroit.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Elijah Richardson speaking. Hope all is well. So my question is, when you talk about the 5 years of federal grant experience with management federal funds, are you talking about directly or indirectly? So for example, we are funded through an organization, through a state organization that has federal funds. So we didn't receive a federal grant, but that state organization did, right? Or through the city of Detroit, right? They did. So does that count, or are you talking about directly from the federal government?
The funding your organization does not need to be a direct recipient of federal funds, what's called a prime recipient in federal funds jargon. However, your organization would have needed to receive some of the federal funds. So you could have been a subrecipient that received a grant using federal funds from a different organization, or multiple other configurations, but your organization did need to receive some federal funds and have experience managing those.
Perfect. Yeah, well, we qualify. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
Awesome. Great question. And just to reiterate, I believe in the chat, I believe there was some additional fiduciary partners in there as well. So again, if you're on here, make sure you're taking a look at the chat, networking with who's here, because obviously I think everyone on this call, we're all invested in the same thing. So one way or another, I think it'll be great for folks to come together, whether it's exactly for this application or not. Okay, bear with me. Let me get back to my, let's see, perfect. Next that I have on my list here is Andre.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Quick question. On the zones, are they predetermined or we could determine them?
You will determine your CVI zones. We are not telling you where to go. We're just providing the information, excuse me, of where we've seen the most activity when it comes to the city over the last 5 years. And we have got our boundaries between 3 to 5 square miles, but we're not going to tell you where to go. If your organization works on the east side, we're not going to tell you, you have to do a zone on the west side. It just doesn't make sense. So stick to where you know. And you said that was the first question.
And the second question was, there's a room for an expanded zone. I didn't, in the grant, there's an expanded zone that doubles or something. Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're looking at, and this was very clear from leadership here, we're suggesting that everyone submit with the 3 to 5 square mile zone. There is an option which we're looking at reviewing after that 1 year of what's called a mega zone, which essentially would double the size as well as the funding. But that is something that will be reviewed after we have once we get to that first year review.
So you cannot apply for a mega zone from the beginning.
Our expectation, let me jump in and add a little bit to what my colleague Mike shared. Our expectation is that the vast majority of applications, if not all applications this first year, will go for the 3 to 5 square mile base zone. The notice of funding availability does include an option for what's titled a mega CVI zone. And that is if your organization has exceptional capacity and experience doing this type of work, you can propose off the bat a 6 to 10 square mile zone, a mega zone. However, there are specific criteria that you would need to meet to show that you have that exceptional capacity and exceptional experience. So some of those criteria are experience managing $1.4 million in funding per fiscal year. That is the amount of the base budget for a mega zone. So you need to show us, have you already managed that amount of funding? Another criteria would be having over 5 years of experience providing CVI services that serve at least 100 participants a year. So again, if you want to apply for such a significant amount of funding, we need to have an even higher level of confidence that your organization already has the capacity to manage that and manage it to a very high degree of quality. There are a couple other criteria that are available in the NOFA, but again, I did want to reiterate our very heavy expectation is that the awards in this first year will be for the 3 to 5 square mile zones. We want to try this out, see how the program goes, see how we can expand the capacity of community organizations, and review about a year in how everything is going and if we can successfully serve larger areas of the city.
Beautiful. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Andre?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, and I do want to make sure I catch or get everyone that at least has not asked a question yet. I have showing right now, chill, don't kill. Love it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the time. Actually, someone just asked the question I had in mind about choosing an area outside of what was designated on the map. But just a follow-up to that, if you could share any potential disadvantages that you can think of regarding choosing an area outside of the ones that have been identified as hotspots around the city. I mean, obviously, there's more of an opportunity if you function in those areas to register a change. Are there any other potential disadvantages to working outside of those areas that you can share?
Sure. Yeah. And then thank you for bringing that up, because I do want to be clear. Any of the slides that we showed or that were shown earlier that had an area blocked out, that was purely hypothetical. Just trying to give folks an idea of what a potential CVI zone would look like. However, excuse me, of course, we want you to provide the area that you see fit. Big part of that, though, of course, when it comes to the grading criteria, and we're looking at the thoroughness and of your application, is also your CVI zone, right? Where is it, right? As the deputy mayor mentioned at the very beginning of this call, if your CVI zone is looking to cover Belle Isle, I'll just use his same example. That's nice. That'll be great for Belle Isle, but it's not exactly what the city is looking for. The whole idea behind this is we're looking to target the areas that have been hit the hardest. And when we look at the data that's been provided from DPD, it's very clear where those areas are. So if we can break up, find a way to actually successfully reduce homicides and non-fatal shootings in those clusters and possibly break them up, that's what we're looking for. But again, in theory, you can provide a CVI zone wherever you see fit. If it's surrounding Palmer Woods, I don't think you're gonna, look as, that's the disadvantage. You just won't be as thoughtful or thought out of a application as far as what the city is looking for than someone that is, looking to attack an area or use tactics in an area that we have seen year over year over year over year have the highest numbers when it comes to homicides and non-fatal shootings. That good to go? Chill, don't kill.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate the question. All right. And then I've got Lavetta giving it a shot. Again, I'm trying everybody's name. I'm sorry if it's pronounced a different way.
Hi, I don't have a specific question. Is my hand raised? I'm sorry.
It was. Okay. No problem. Let me see. And then I've got Bishop James Williams.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. This presentation has been extremely thorough and well thought out. My question with regard to the zones and the awarding of the grants or the applications, what will be the criteria if two applicants are vying for, if you will, the same territory, if they've kind of mapped out pretty much, overlapping zones,
sure.
And both of their applications are, worthy of granting? Have you guys thought about how you're going to handle that, and can you share that?
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question because that has not been brought up yet. So we have thought about that. First of all, that's a good problem to have. If we do, that means that we have multiple folks, providing well thought out applications. The initial thought process behind that, ultimately, as you mentioned, if it's night and day, who's really put the time and effort and energy into what they're looking to do, that may seal the deal right there, right? Or if one meets all the criteria that we're looking for and one doesn't, that does seal it. However, if we look at two and they're both, kind of neck and neck, and maybe they're overlapping, at that point, we do hold the right to reach out to them and say, hey, here's what we're looking at. Maybe we can adjust the zones a little bit, right? Maybe we shift one over a half a mile to a mile or something like that. So that way we can still award both, but not have them overlapping or working in the same area, or not having to say, to one versus the other if they're both, thorough applications that have been submitted with great tactics in mind of what they're looking to do. So we would take that time to say, okay, let's look at it on the map. Let's see if there's a way that we can, split them up where it's still worthy of both being awarded.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Just going back in order here. I've got Angel Support, and then I've got TMI Detroit again.
Yes, thank you. The bishop just mentioned something that was kind of in an area that I wanted to talk about. Wouldn't it be easier if the city just created maps, because you know the data, and then pass them out to us, and we can choose from those particular maps? And what Bishop said, that can actually be eliminated, because what you want targeted. And so that information, that map should come from you guys, and actually we can have a choosing of it and kind of go from there. That's one particular question, but go ahead, I'll let you answer.
Sure. Yeah. So to that question, I can tell you that we have thought through that as well. This is, I don't even know if I can put a number on what version of this program we're on now. One of the versions had that as an option. However, one of the things, and it kind of goes back to what the deputy mayor mentioned when he came on, was we're trying to provide the structure and the resources. However, we do not want to handhold. Right? The groups know their areas. We want the groups to be able to select the areas they're comfortable with. I'll give you one scenario, Ms. Angel. Let's say we told you, hey, these are the only 6 areas that you can choose from, and you pick one. And let's say, again, just random scenario, let's say shootings actually go up. They're a little higher, right? Well, hey, we told you to take that area. You could come and say, well, actually, the area I serve is a little more over here, but I had to select from these areas you guys chose. And it kind of gives you a way to say, well, again, so that's why we're not forcing you to choose what fiduciaries you have to work with. We're not telling you how you have to spend your budgets. We're trying to leave it as open as possible, because we want that from the groups that are in the communities and know, hey, this is the area I serve. This is where I'm comfortable and confident being able to do that.
I understand that. I'm saying, if you are in it to do the work, you should be expecting a lot more out of it. And it's okay to, I guess, choose your own area. But if you're going to do the work, it should be a broad spectrum. It really should. And I don't think individuals should be afraid of jumping into another 3 miles. But that's just my opinion. But I think it also would be better if you are mapping it out, because you know the data, and allow individuals to choose certain sections. But my other question here, you're putting great emphasis in the language of doing the work prior to. And I understand that. We just went through a pandemic. Crime actually went down during the pandemic. So I don't know, you may feel different, but if you were doing work on the East, and it is proven that you were doing that particular work, now you're on the west side of town, is that going to be used against the individual that has been doing the work?
Not used against them. Of course, if you got the experience doing the work, that's the most important piece. I wouldn't say necessarily where you have done it is the most important. But again, having the experience is one of the most important parts. It's actually one of the 3 requirements. It's actually having the experience. So, excuse me, obviously, when you're submitting your application, you would speak to that. You would say, hey, here's my experience that I did on the East side. This is what we did. These are the people that we touched and affected. And this is why we're now looking at expanding and doing work here on the West side. Not a problem. That will not be counted against you.
In another area, do you really feel, or you guys should go back to the table and look at it, the scoring system, is that really realistic? I mean, you're putting a lot of emphasis on the scoring system, and it just, there's a lot there. We
Sure.
don't want individuals to walk into it looking at, I'm going to fail, or this is difficult, or this is going to be hard. But the scoring system is pretty hard.
It's complex. It is.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's a lot to consider, but it's also a lot of dollars, and we have to be able to measure what we're doing, right? If we go back to the federal government and say, hey, where'd you spend that money, and how was it spent? We you know, the city has to be able to express, you know, how it was done. So, you know, we have to be able to measure it. Otherwise, you know, if it just feels like violence has gone down, that's not enough, you know, to say, hey, here you go. So that, you know, this is the only way that we have found, and again, this is a test, you know, we're going to test it out and see how it works, but this is the only way that we have found that actually statistically would measure efforts from a group in a specific area.
Okay. Now, transparency. When it comes to the scoring system, are you going to bring the groups that have been selected and they are awarded the grant? Are you going to bring them in together and discuss scoring system, who's doing what, and who's not doing what? I think that transparency, having everybody at the table, is good. Not having something behind the door with one particular group and you're scoring them and others don't know exactly what's going on, because we are collectively doing this together. So they can learn from one's mistake and others can actually share information, what you can do for your particular area. I think transparency is going to be absolutely important because you leaked out also, well, not seeing you, but it was also said earlier that it's the discretion of the city council to discriminate.
Sure.
And that right there, we need to be very, very clear. Transparency has to be important because you're asking the community to come in, but we need to be able to be trusting to what you guys are laying out for us. We don't want to fail in anything. We want to actually help and partner up and expand it, but you have to be transparent with us and what is going on in the language.
Sure, absolutely. So I can tell you that each group will know what's going on in their area. I can tell you that exactly what you discussed is in conversations that is being had at the mayor's office and, you know, with the city regularly as far as how, but that is to be determined as far as how that will be. So whether it's a monthly group, you know, all coming together, whether it's the information being shared directly. But again, a part of the applications that are being submitted, you know, we anticipate that some groups are also going to already know, you know, which precincts they're in. And so they'll have contacts at DPD that are helping to, you know, provide them information. And of course, we're going to share what we can data wise. But yes, it is in conversation. Nothing specific has been outlined at this point. But you bring up a really good point that I can tell you conversations are being had around that as well.
Okay, and I kind of think this is going to be great, and if we can actually get it together and make it work, I see great things, but it has to be the right individuals to do it. And there's great emphasis on people have been doing the work, but being innovative and doing something new and allowing somebody that actually have great ideas. Is there going to be a panel for the people that did not get the grant? Can they be at the table some way, somehow to share their ideas with people that are doing the work?
That's a great question. We don't have an exact you know, panel idea set up yet. I think that's a great point and great question. That again, we're taking notes of everything as well. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I truly thank you for your time. Hopefully I didn't keep you hostage too long.
No, these are all great questions, and we want to get them out now. We want everybody to feel empowered and feel you know, successful in their bids. So thank you for that.
Many blessings to go out to Detroit. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mike. I just wanted to be cognitive about the time.
Oh,
it's
yes, thank you.
6:13 now, and so this meeting will be ending at 6:30. And so if we could take our last questions, and again, to let everyone know, you can submit a question anytime via Oracle. And also you have my email information and contact information was provided earlier. And so we can answer questions again via Oracle by March 22nd, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we have a few people right now who have.
So I'll just politely ask that if you have not raised your hand, if it's up right now, we're going to get to you. I'm going to try to squeeze through these last I've got 5 in front of me. So please be aware of that. Okay. So excuse me. Next thing I had was TMI Detroit.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this presentation. I really like the ideal of a community violence intervention. Did you hear my question? Did you hear my question? Hello? Did you hear the question?
Michael,
Hello?
you're muted.
Did you hear the question?
I apologize. You went back on mute just like I was trying to talk to you right now. So I apologize. No, can you repeat the question, please? Because
Okay, again, I said, again, for the last caller and supported what the last caller said, in terms of an advisory board, I think that's a great suggestion for the mayor or the deputy mayor to put together a community violence intervention advisory board out of the companies that don't win this proposal. Maybe they can work from an advisory standpoint or some sorts. But I was more concerned about the fact about the budget. Is there room in the budget to include incentives for the people that we're going to be servicing?
Yeah,
like a work experience program. If we offer work experience, community service programs, and things like that, obviously we have to pay.
Councilors in the meeting.
Yep. So sorry, someone else has taken themselves off mute. If you wouldn't mind going back on mute. But to answer your question, TMI Detroit, yes, there is room in the budget, and we have not created the budget for folks. So this is where we're asking, hey, if you know a part of my application, a part of what I can do to help drive down the violence is putting people to work, doing X, Y, and Z, put that in your budget, when you're putting your bid. And yes, there is room to do whatever you see fit, in the event of reducing, again, violence within your area.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. Thank you. And then Ray Smith, I had gone to. Are you able to hop off mute? Was that a question you still have, or is your hand still raised?
Yes, I'm still. I have one question here. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's a good idea for like the brother Mike talked about earlier about they don't have the background to carry out the numbers or the meet the qualifications, but it's good to partner up with agencies that may win the contract. Just partner with those individuals. But my question is that how many awards you're looking to give out, and also in terms of let's get into the real weeds here. If an agency or organization intervene into a crime to prevent a crime from happening, say someone's going to get carjacked or abducted, how is that going to play out? I mean, would the person, be liable if there's some violence or a death involved with preventing the crime from happening? Do they have to go to court to testify? I mean, what are the significance of the in-depth of the intervention? Or should they just ignore the crime themselves?
So I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. First of all, can you?
Okay. The first one was how many awards you're looking to give out?
Oh, the amount of awards, 3 to 5. I'm sorry, that one I could have answered for you. I'm sorry. We're looking at.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say 3 to 5 awardees. I couldn't remember what your first question was. I'm sorry.
The second part of the question is that if an entity or organization intervenes in a crime, say a carjacking, how would that play out? I mean, if there's an issue or casualty involved, based on the agencies trying to prevent a crime, like a carjacking or abduction, how's it going to play out?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we are obviously going to follow all and every, laws that are already in place. I want to be clear, even though the title of the program is, Shotstoppers, we are not looking for anyone to go out, themselves and jump in front of anything as it's happening. We're trying to prevent it from happening. So I don't really have an answer for you to say what are the legal ramifications, because this is not like we're empowering you to go out, right, and deputizing you to go out, you know, and you do citizens arrests and things like that of that nature. This is not that. I want to be clear about that.
That's a good answer, because like I said, if you see it, I mean, don't put yourself in danger.
Right. Still, you know, reach out. Maybe you have reach out. I would call 911 just like anyone else would, right? But then maybe you're able to, maybe you know who the person was, right? Maybe you can find out, more about, again, I can't tell you guys how to do it, but yeah, please do not go out and
Go get a license plate or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Do what you can, and then maybe you find out if it was a young person. Maybe you find out who it was, or they get out and you can help guide them and mentor them into doing something else.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Again, I'm trying to move through these last couple ones. Negasvu.
Hey, I'm back. Yep. Just quick, two quick questions.
Sure.
Regards, because I still feel some of the answers.
Everybody else, please make sure you're on mute. Sorry, go ahead, niggas.
Yep. So in other words, for that 3 to 5 square mile radius, we're gonna have to do a multitude of neighborhoods, it appears to be there. And I was just looking at it. So it's like basically almost a minimum of 3 neighborhoods that we're gonna have to do in regards to the measurements. So we have to pretty much combine all 3 CVI scores, what it's going to look like, and then come out with the average of that and use that.
You got it. Yeah, if you're looking at the Excel sheet, like that attachment F we were talking about, that's exactly how you would do it. So you'd kind of map out your area. You'd say, okay, hey, my area is about 4 neighborhoods, right? Just as an example. Then you would look at those 4 neighborhoods and you'd be able to look at those CVI scores to get an idea roughly of what you would combining those, and then you'd see, hey, so roughly my score would be about here. And then the ones that are awarded down the road, we're going to go ahead, we're going to work directly with DPT. We're going to, get it mapped out exactly. So you get the data prior to us actually measuring it. And then we are looking at the exact same data for that area moving forward. But that's a good way to get an idea of what your CVI score would be. Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming y'all times the homicide by 2 based upon its value versus the non-fatal. Is that why y'all did that? Because homicide.
You got it. You got it. Neither one of them are good, obviously, but yes, once someone's gone, that's it. And so we want to put a heavy emphasis on the actual deaths that have taken place.
Okay. I had one more question.
Great questions.
So I screwed it up. I forgot the last one.
Okay, that's all right. Like we mentioned, once we get going, you have your if you're going to submit a bid at Oracle, you'll still be able to submit all your your questions, and then that way they're available for everyone else. So just like I'm sure someone found value in the questions you just asked right now, the other bidders will be able to view it, and you can see their questions as well. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. And then I've got Dwight Icon 10, and then I've got Miss Anita after that.
Unmute yourself, Dwight.
How you doing? My name is Dwight Harris, founder of Icon 10, president. I just wanted to kind of just speak in support a little bit of speaking about this grant and the work that we're doing. My experience goes to working with Ceasefire and Detroit Eastern District Initiative years ago as the coordinator for social work with CAS. And when you think about this work is intrinsic work. This is not work that somebody just come out and just create this program, something in their head, and then say you're going to apply that to the community. You have to have been in the community. There are people that have intrinsically, the word is intrinsically have been rooted in the community all kind of ways, but they haven't received funding. They haven't received, these people pay, they do for children now. These the matriarchs and patriarchs that the mayor was talking about, where these people take care of these children every day. Children that have decided to go do something that they ain't supposed to do. So there's already people that's already connected with those people. We're not looking to create a program to say and draw a line around somewhere and say that this is where I'm at because of this. No, we're talking about people that's already been there. And that experience, there are people that have that experience. They're not police officers, nothing. These were, you're talking about areas where there's a lot of shooting. When you're talking about going to get understanding the data that comes with the precinct, they've been doing it for years already. So these people already know where you go and get this information from when you're talking about Shotstoppers. And when you look and see all the crime and violence is going on in these areas. We want people from that area. We're talking about matriarchs and patriarchs. There's organizations that's already been there. There's people that have money, that use their money to feed a lot of these kids. They eat every day. They don't eat at home. They eat on the streets. They eat at anybody's house. They eat at Big Man house.
Right.
You know, and so we want to make sure that they good. So I'm in support of that. I just wanted to speak in support of the city.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. And I think that's why the mayor was so strong and the deputy mayor on, making sure that we had taken an approach that's not controlling really at all. We're really trying to leave it to, hey, we understand there's those groups and those people that are already doing this before, whether we do this or not, they're going to still be there, still doing the work. So I think this is a great start. And the more that we can show the success of it, the more that we can continue to even do smaller programs or larger programs and find things to, help the grandmas and the matriarchs and patriarchs that are, truly just opening their homes to people. So, but thank you. I appreciate that support. And then the last question, that we have here is from Miss Anita.
Hello. I jumped on right at the tail end of this, but from what I've heard, I'm pretty sure I don't qualify, so I won't even be submitting anything because I'm not a nonprofit. I'm an LLC and fairly new. What I'm wondering is if I would like to team up with someone who is submitting a bid to play a small role in what their endeavor is, how would I put that out there? Would it be through Oracle? I've never been on Oracle, so I don't know what that is or what it looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So no, that's great. You would be able to partner. That's a big part of, what we're encouraging. You would reach out to that group individually first. You guys have the introductory conversation, see how you might be able to work together, to meet the criteria, which again, the criteria, you just need to be incorporated. You need to have a 2-year history of community violence intervention or that sort of work in the community, and then a 5-year history managing federal funds. So it could be yourself, another organization, and a fiduciary. There's no limit to how you can partner. And then at that point, once you come together and say, hey, this is where our strengths are, this is what we would do, then you would be able to submit your application through Oracle. And as Angie mentioned, we've got several resources to help you navigate Oracle once you guys get to that point as well.
Okay, gotcha. Is Oracle also a hub where we will see everyone who's planning on applying, or would I have no knowledge of the organizations that have intentions of submitting something?
I don't believe on Oracle you'll have access to who else is applying. I would say it would just be based on, again, other folks that networking, right? Just seeing who else is doing the work in the area that you serve. And again, if you look in the chat, probably I would, check that out if you haven't yet. There's been a lot of conversation in the chat, both with fiduciaries and other organizations and groups that are, intend to apply.
Okay. Are you able to make the chat visible from the beginning? Because I only see it from done.
So I can tell you that we are recording this presentation. So once we're wrapped up, this recording will be available on the city website. So you'll be able to go back, review it, and see who spoke, which groups were there, as well. And then give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Miss Anita, someone has asked what your name is. So if you just want to really quickly share the name of your organization, I hope you can make some connections based on that.
Okay, thank you. My name is Anita Miko, and I do acupuncture, but I do community-based group acupuncture. It's a very limited protocol just on the ears, and it serves three purposes: anxiety relief, insomnia, and to reduce addiction. So I was hoping that maybe this
This is
could
perfect.
someone else with a larger piece of what they're doing.
Okay. Got it. Got it. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And hopefully, like I said, I would just start doing making the connections and networks. There's a lot of folks, that have been doing this that, have already stated, through different media online that they are intending to take part and at least provide, submit their application here. So hopefully you can make the right connections and make something happen.
Okay, thanks. I'll put my website in the chat.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you, Miss Anita. All right. I do see we're at our time, and I know Miss Anita was the last one that we had. Miss Wanda, or not, sorry, Wanda Aquila, I see that hand did come up after we cut off, but if you have a quick question, I will try to answer it for you before we get out of here.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. This is Malik Shabazz, giving honor to God. First, let me say real quick, let me thank the mayor. Let me thank the deputy mayor. Let me also say, listening to this sounds like a whole lot of paperwork, but this is unprecedented what is being offered. Two questions. What about groups that are citywide? They're not east side. They're not west side. They go where the mother, and it's largely women holding it down about their murdered loved one. They go where the call is made, where the need is made. They're citywide. That's one. And two, is the Al-Kibalan Youth Center. Are they recognized as a fiduciary with the city?
So it's not specifically with the city. You would want to, I'll answer your second question first. You'll want to reach out to them and see what their experience is and if they would meet the criteria for managing federal funds. In regards to your first
what
question,
I mean is, I'm sorry, are they on your list of those that you all have approved?
I've already spoken with
fiduciaries.
Yeah. So
No,
so that
Youth Center, Marvis Cofield.
correct.
Been
No, that
around
group was
45.
not. Yeah, nope, that one that was not on that initial list that we have. And again, these are not approved. Like we're not approving these fiduciaries. These are just fiduciaries that have expressed interest to us initially, meaning to the city. And so we just put that together as a way to help some folks, try to have some direction of where to go. If there's another group that you know of, or that maybe should be added, if there's anything else provided down the road, please share that with us or drop it in the chat. That would be very helpful. And then in regards to your first question, as far as the citywide work goes, that's great. For the actual bid, though, for this application, you would have to designate a 3 to 5 square mile zone that will be your CVI zone that you or your organization would be willing to be accountable for.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
Michael?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I can.
So
It's all yours.
again, we thank you for all of your questions and you just being so interested and vested in reducing the violence in the city of Detroit for all of us here that lives within the city. Again, we encourage you to submit an application to this NOFA. If you need any help with your supplier registration, your supplier profile, responding to this application, again, we have the procurement in the cloud at detroitmi.gov or phone number 313-224-1500, which we went over that a little bit earlier. They have specific times and dates they go over and give training on that. And it's a really in-depth one-on-one training that you would, I think that if you have not been within Oracle or you have not registered, that it would be beneficial for you to attend. And I also just want to go over the quick dates again. The NOFA questions due are March 22nd by 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Oracle. Answers will be distributed by March 27th on or before that time, and the application is due April 10th of this year at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Oracle will kick you out. So you won't be able to upload any documents after 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 10th. This meeting has been recorded and then it will be available in Oracle for your review. And because of Anita's question about the chat and because there was so much activity within it, I will try to decipher through it and make it available through Oracle and send it so it will be readily available. And those organizations that said that they were interested with partnering with it, that will be available also. I'm looking at a question. Will the presentation be uploaded to Oracle? Yes, I will make sure that the presentation is uploaded into Oracle as well. So everything that the information that has been provided will be in Oracle. That will probably be by tomorrow because we have to get the recording and everything together. And so that will be available to everyone via Oracle. And we look forward to reviewing and all of your applications and working with you in the future. So everyone it's 6:35. I hope everyone have a great night. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Angie. Everyone have a good night.
Great job. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Looking at the names, yeah. It's that name. No, I was trying to get you to mute it. I know it's over, but mute it.